Hello to all my dear followers. I want to welcome you to a new chapter of the fanfic What If Naruto Mastered All of Minato's Jutsus. Always remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons if you want the next chapter. Without further ado, enjoy.
It had been 8 days since Naruto had met both Jutsu and Haku. Right now all of the Konoha Nin except Kiba were at the bridge. Kiba had stayed behind to protect Tsunade's family in case Gatos' men tried anything funny. The bridge was enveloped by a thick mist. As soon as it appeared, Itachi looked at Naruto and said, "Naruto, do it." Naruto, without any confirmation, weaved through a set of hands at a quick pace before shouting, "Wind-style ultimate great breakthrough." He fired a giant torrent of wind from his mouth. The gigantic torrent of wind immediately cleared the mist away. As soon the mist cleared, Zabuza, Mangetsu, Haku, Suigetsu, and another shinobi who was wielding twin blades. "So you guys finally showed," Kakashi said as he brought out his Sharingan. Itachi activated his eyes, whereas Kushina released her chains and unsheathed her Kodachi. "It's a rematch from last time with the same matchup." Itachi Uchiha, to even things out, I called an old acquaintance for help. Here is Raiga Kushimaru. Also this time our apprentices will be fighting. Zabuza sneered and said as he and his team got his stances. Before anyone could answer or move, Naruto clapped his hands and said Kai. He was then covered by seals that all broke. Naruto then cracked his neck and looked at Haku and Suigetsu and said, "So which one of you will be my opponent first?" Haku stepped forward and pointed to a clearing at the right side of where they were standing. Nodding but not removing his eyes from Haku, both of them moved and began a stare-off. Suigetsu was then confronted by Sayuri and Hinata with the twins and Sakura guarding Tsunade. All the ninjas were staring at each other. The air was so tense that it could cut by a knife. In a blink of an eye all 6 jonins disappeared in a burst of speed, and the only thing that could be seen was 6 blurs flying around, accompanied by sounds metal clashing with metal. Kakashi vs. Zabuza, **. Kakashi was holding 2 kunai in reverse grips and was clashing against Zabuza. Kurokobichi. Zabuza was using his normal style of pure power, whereas Kakashi was countering him with his reflexes and the Sharingan. Kakashi, having the advantage in pace and prediction, had managed to get in a few cuts. It was then that both of them simultaneously managed to knock their weapons out of their hands. They then jumped back and created a little distance between each other. "Damn it, ninjutsu is out, the only option I have is taijutsu," thought Zabuza as he charged forward on the offensive. Not suspecting him to charge, Kakashi was hit by several of Zabuza's punches before he went on the defensive. This went on until Kakashi poofed off in smoke, surprising Zabuza, who did not turn around in time and was hit by a mighty haymaker which caused him to fly into a tree and then land with a thud. Kakashi quickly went through several hand signs and shouted, "Summoning Jutsu." As soon as he said, several dogs appeared in puffs of smoke. Kakashi then said, "Hold him down while I finish him off." The Ninken nodded ANF. All of them bit Zabuza, holding him in place, while Kakashi was charging a Chidori. He was about to thrust it into Zabuza when Itachi vs. Raiga, **. Itachi and Raiga were clashing with swords. Raiga was using his twin Kiba blades, with Itachi countering the moves with his Tanto. Itachi then replaced himself with a clone and went through several hand signs at a lightning-quick pace before shouting, "Fire-style great fireball jutsu." He fired a giant fireball from his mouth which Raiga saw and promptly dodged. He however failed to notice 2 clones sneak up on him. Both of the clones in one swift motion latched themselves on Raiga. As Raiga struggled to get free, Itachi made a ram sign and said, "Exploding clone jutsu." Both the clones exploded, leaving his immediate vicinity smoky. Itachi however was forced to dodge a couple of lightning streams that came toward him. Turning his attention around, he saw Raiga still standing. His clothes were in tatters, he had several burns and bleeding cuts, he was also breathing heavily, but he was still in fighting condition. "I would advise you to stop and give up. No matter how strong of an A rank you are, you can't defeat an S rank on your own," Itachi said in a monotone voice. "Hey, I don't really get into fights like these anymore. It is way too interesting to give up now," Raiga said as he crossed his blades at Itachi. "I see, then you leave me with no choice." Itachi said as his eyes morphed from the normal Sharingan into the Manjiki Sharingan. Looking dead into Raiga's eyes, Itachi muttered Tsukuyami. After 3 seconds, Raiga dropped down on the floor exhausted. Itachi sighed and turned his Sharingan off before he rubbed them to reduce the irritation in them. He was then about to kill Raiga when Kushina vs Mangetsu, *. Kushina and Mangetsu were both firing a wide variety jutsus at each other and were waiting for an opening to land a finishing. Unbeknownst to Mangetsu, he was playing directly into Kushina's trap. Before they had started clashing, Kushina had created several seal-less clones and had hinged them into different materials so that they could fit in with the surroundings. The clones were busy getting a sealing array ready. As soon as it was ready, Kushina released her chains and deflected Mangetsu's incoming water dragon, before immediately firing a water vortex jutsu at him. Being an S-rank ninja, Mangetsu easily dodged Kushina's attack but failed to see that the place he had landed was a sealing array. Kushina smirked at that and brought up a one-handed ram and said Uzumaki-style 7-point seal, Fuin. As soon as she said that Mangetsu was trapped, he wasn't able to move even an inch of his body. Sighing, Mangetsu looked at her and said, "It seems you win, Benihime. It was a good fight." "Damn right it was, Databane," Kushina said with a wink which caused Mangetsu to blush a little. Something Kushina was too oblivious to notice. With Suigetsu, Sayuri, and Hinata, *. Suigetsu charged forward and attacked both the girls at once. He made a downward swipe with his sword which was intercepted by 2 kunai. Courtesy of Sayuri, she managed to keep Suigetsu locked in his place while Hinata got behind him and shouted 8 trigrams 32 palms. Hinata in one quick motion hit 32 of Suigetsu's chakra points, shutting them down and temporarily blocked them. He became paralyzed for a moment. A moment which Sayuri fully utilized and immediately tied Suigetsu with a ninja wire. He sighed a little bit and said, "What a bummer." Sayuri looked a little shocked and said, "Is killing a game for you?" "No. Our senseis may kill, but me and Haku avoid it if we can. I was just going to knock you both out before helping Haku with Naruto." Suigetsu nonchalantly replied. He then looked at Hinata and said, "You really are good. What's your name?" "I am Hinata Hyuga of the great Hyuga clan." She put up her act of arrogance. "Hinata-ka, that's a cute name." "My name is Suigetsu, but you can call me Sui-kun," he said with a wink. Hinata blushed slightly before looking away while Suigetsu smirked victoriously. Sayuri just looked on a little confusedly. What was happening here, she incredulously thought. However, her thoughts were interrupted when Naruto vs Haku, *. You know we shouldn't fight. I know for a fact that Gato and his thugs will try to overwhelm us. When all of us are weakened. Naruto said. How do you know that Gato is coming? Haku asked as she narrowed her eyes suspiciously. I am a sensory nin. I sensed a large number of civilian signatures coming from the direction you guys just came from. That's how. Naruto casually replied. How long until they get here? Haku asked. They should be here in 10 minutes. While we wait, why don't you tell me about yourself? Naruto asked. Very well. I was originally from Kiri. Suddenly they started something called a bloodline purge. The Yondaime Mizukichi thought and convinced most of the population that people with bloodlines were actually demons themselves, hence beginning the purge. When I was 5 I activated my Hayaton bloodline. I was excited and quickly showed it to my mom. She quickly told me to turn it off and to never tell anyone about it. However, my father saw it and killed my mom. He almost killed me, but I escaped. I stayed on the streets for a year, after which Zabuza found me and took me in. That's my life story. Would you like to share yours? Haku said. I guess I will. I am the Junchuriki of the Kyuubi's soul. Due to lack of knowledge on seals, everyone thought that I was the demon reincarnate. Because of this I became the village pariah. Shopkeepers would overcharge me and sell me expired products. No one would ever talk to me. And most of all, I was beaten to a near-death state nearly every year on my birthday. That was until Gigi found me and placed me in the academy and got me my own place. He also introduced me to several shopkeepers who did not have a bias against me. I was happy. Then when I graduated I learnt that I had a family, 2 sisters, they are those 2 adorable redheads guarding Tsunade. I grew even happier. Now I will say I am satisfied with my life. Naruto replied. Haku was about to reply when the sounds of marching was heard. All of the shinobi turned to look at the source, which was a small army of bandits, nearly 200 being led by Gato. So you failed, huh? That's good, now I can kill all of you at once. Men, kill them all except the girls, they could be worth good money. Especially the red-headed ones, they look delicious. Gato said with a perverted leer. All of the ninjas were now standing together to fight the bandits. Given the level they were on, 5 jonins could easily take on and kill mere bandits no matter what number. However, before either side could move, the whole area was engulfed in a very potent killing intent. It froze all the bandits in place, caused all the genins to collapse on their knees, while the jonins remained unaffected. Turning around they saw that Naruto was the one emitting the killing intent. Naruto removed the seal on his eyes and activated his Sharingan, chakra chains, and unsheathed his sword. His overall appearance could now be described as intimidating. Turning to the jonins he said, I will take care of this, don't interfere. All of them nodded and stepped back. Gato laughed and said, kid, you must be a fool to think you can take on 200 men alone. Naruto didn't answer. He held up his left hand and did some one-handed seals, causing the area around the bandits to be covered with mist. This surprised the genin, and the rogue mist means, but no one spoke at that moment. Naruto then disappeared in a burst of speed, and soon the area was filled with cries of pain, shouts for mercy, and sounds of blood splashing on the ground. Everyone waited with bated breath to see what was happening. Kakashi, Itachi, and Kushina were hoping that Naruto didn't kill anyone, as the number of kills would be too high to handle for a 12-year-old. Soon the mist cleared away and everyone saw all the bandits on the ground dead, bleeding, with some missing a limb or 2. Naruto on the other hand was covered with blood and was standing in front of Gato with a look of pure hatred on his face. Before he could kill him, sounds of footsteps could be heard. Turning around everyone saw Kiba leading the villagers, all of them had a weapon in their hands. It was then that Inari shouted, Naruto Nissen, we are here, I took your advice and finally did something about it. Naruto chuckled and wrapped his chains around Gato, lifting him into the air and then tossing him right in front of the villagers and saying, do what you want with him. The villagers roared in approval before dragging Gato away. He was going to pay for all of his crimes today. When everyone left, Naruto looked around and paled. He was surrounded by dead bodies of people he killed. He ran to a bush and puked before he started hyperventilating. Seeing this, Kushina and the twins ran towards him. Kushina immediately wrapped him into a hug and was rocking him soothingly. With the girls looking on with looks of worry on their faces. That must have been rough on the kid, normally there is 1 kill at your first time, not 200. Mangetsu said. I agree, it looks like the kid is having a panic attack, but you can't deny he has skill. Zabuza said. Itachi and Kakashi didn't say anything, they merely looked on in worry. The rest of the genin all were having different thoughts. I should ask him how he became this strong, it will help me beat Itachi. Sayuri thought. Damn, no doubts now, he is the alpha, he killed everyone who dared threaten his pack. Kiba thought. Naruto, you really are a hero. I am sorry that I treated you badly without knowing the real you. Looking at you, this must have been very hard on you. Thought Sakura. Naruto. Hinata sadly thought. He is truly strong if he is able to go through those lengths to protect his precious ones. Haku thought, whereas Suigetsu kept an impassive look on his face. Turning to Mangetsu, Itachi asked, what will you guys be doing now? Me, Zabuza and Raiga will be joining the rebels in the Kiri civil war. We haven't decided on where to drop of the kids. We don't want them to see war so soon. Mangetsu replied. How about you send them with us to Konoha, they can become Naruto's genin teammates. Since they aren't listed as shinobi, they can't be classified as missing nin. Kakashi said. No, that's not gonna happen. I decided against leaving the kids behind. Even if it's a civil war, the only way I fight is if Haku is protected, so I will take her with me. Zabuza said. In that case it seems that Suigetsu will be leaving with me as well. said Mangetsu as he and Zabuza motioned their apprentices to follow them, and then they left. Back with Naruto, he had finally calmed down in his mother's embrace. He looked at her and quietly said, "I am a monster, I killed them." Kushina looked at him and firmly said, "Listen to me, Sochi, you aren't a monster. Those men would have harmed your sisters if they got their hands on them. Not that Thikalv achieved that since I trained them so well. But you need to know that you did the right thing protecting your family." Naruto looked at her with a grateful look in his eyes before he asked, "Does it get any easier?" "It does over time, but one must never enjoy killing. As long as you try and avoid it and don't enjoy killing, you are fine and human, not a monster," Kushina said. Naruto gave a thankful nod before he fell asleep in Kushina's motherly embrace. She picked him up and the family of four started returning home. "Kacchan, will Nikon be okay?" Mito asked worriedly. "Yes, he will be fine, he is just tired and needs a little sleep," Kushina replied. "Namito, remember when you asked you will protect Nikon? I thought about it and decided that we will protect Ni-chan in change." "Database," Narumi said, to which Mito nodded before both of them exclaimed their verbal tick loudly as they punched the air. Kushina and the others chuckled at them before they all returned to Tsunade's home. Time skip 1 week later. After a week the bridge had been completed. Naruto was being hailed as the hero of the wave as he single-handedly beat Gato and his bandits. The pure look of joy and gratitude in the eyes of the people convinced Naruto that what he did was right. He then made a vow to never make an unnecessary kill, but that didn't mean he wouldn't if there was no other choice. Naruto also found that he now had a fan club in the wave. It was because of this that he mostly hid in Tsunade's house for the remainder of their stay at the wave. Currently the Konoha Nin were at the gates bidding the villagers goodbye. "Promise you will come visit again, Nissen," Inari said to Naruto. The young boy was trying his hardest to hold back his tears. Naruto smiled at the boy and bent down and hugged the boy. He then said, "You know it's okay to cry tears of joy, and don't worry, I will definitely visit you." The boy then broke into tears and hugged Naruto tightly. Naruto then rubbed his back, slowly soothing the boy before he stood up. He along with the group turned to leave. As they were leaving, Naruto's fangirls appeared and they shouted, "Naruto-sama, don't leave, give us your babies." Needless to say that Kushina and the twins had to be held back to ensure that they didn't rip those girls to pieces. As they walked into the distance, Tsunade turned to the villagers and said, "What should we name the bridge?" "I think the Great Tsunade Bridge sounds good, don't you think so?" "No," came the collective response of all the villagers. "Then what?" Tsunade asked with a sigh. Inari thought for a while before saying the Great Naruto Bridge. Everyone agreed to this and soon the bridge was named as the Great Naruto Bridge. With a plan to set up a statue to commemorate their hero. It had been 3 months since the mission to the Wave Country. Naruto was now nearing the level of High Chunin. Thanks to the help of his mother, his training in seals and kenjutsu had progressed very rapidly. He was now a level 7 seals master and had mastered 25% of katas for both Itoryu and swirl style. He and his mother had also devised and installed privacy and security seals around his home and training ground, keeping out prying eyes and some other interested individuals. The highlight of the 3 months would have to be when Naruto used a premature version of his father's Flying Thunder God technique. He knew it was the right technique. How? He teleported as soon as he threw his own 3-pronged kunai. It was premature. Why? Because it automatically activated the teleport, and he couldn't control it, and 2, it cost him way too much chakra to pull off. Because of that he decided not to use the technique until he reached the higher subtleties of the Hierophant seal. He had been working on it and his father's space-time absorption barrier for almost 4 years now. He estimated that both moves were around 25% complete. He sighed as he felt that they were going way too slowly. But he quickly reminded himself that his father was a sealing genius, his seals were based of his blood and only those who were directly related to him could use them. It was because of this that both Kushina and Jiraiya weren't able to master his seals despite both of them being seal masters in their own rights. This thought made him smile. He knew that both of these moves were steps to getting closer to his father spiritually. He couldn't wait to one day show his dad that he had mastered both of his signature techniques. Since Gigi said his dad was watching him from heaven, he would be the first person to know of his accomplishment. Over the past 3 months Naruto had performed 15 C rank missions, 8 B rank mission and 2 A ranks. His record in missions was near flawless. The reports also put the things in his favor as they mentioned Naruto sticking to his superior's order and carrying out all the orders he got with minimal work. It also mentioned that was capable of adapting and changing the plan on the field to ensure the success of the mission without risking lives. Both Mikoto and Kushina had been quick to reprimand Naruto and Itachi for going on a ranks. Both of them did the smart thing and shut up, taking in all of the scolding. After that both Mikoto and Kushina gushed at Naruto, saying that despite his recklessness they were proud of him and was a great shinobi. Mito, Narumi and Hinata had been progressing greatly under Kushina's tutelage and were all mid-chunin level. They had gone on 8 C ranks missions in the past 3 months, and after watching Naruto's skill with seals they had taken an interest themselves and were halfway through level 1. Kushina was very pleased when they asked her help, which she happily provided. Even Sayuri, Kiba and Sakura had progressed greatly. Sayuri, thanks to her Sharingan, was taking in jutsus like a dry sponge to water. Kiba had dropped a little of his pride and had started learning a couple more taijutsu styles along with learning at least one new jutsu a month. Sakura had improved the most of this group. She had focused on being the long-range support in the team. Thanks to her impeccable chakra control and growing reserve, she had become a genjutsu prodigy in her own right and was fairly skilled in medical ninjutsu. Overall Sayuri was mid-chunin level, Kiba was low chunin and Sakura was high genin. It wasn't just them, the other rookies had progressed a lot under their senseis. Yakumo under Kurenai had finally met her true potential and could successfully hold solid genjutsus for a good while. Shino had taken up a little of both Tai and ninjutsu so as to be able to hold his ground when faced with unfavorable circumstances. Aizen was the strongest member of his team. His skill with his family's taijutsu and bojutsu was second to none in his age, and he was the only boy in the rookies who could face up to Naruto at full power. His skill with both fire and earth made him all the more formidable. He was bordering high chunin level. With Yakumo and Shino both being low chunin level, the only team with 2 high genins and 1 low genin were Team Asuma. The main reason was the inherited laziness this team had, and no matter what the sensei did he was unable to bring them out of it. All except of Ino, who despite being energetic didn't train and worked more on impressing boys than training to improve her skills as a shinobi. Currently we see Naruto walking in the streets towards a bridge. Itachi had called him there to tell him about something important. Soon he reached his destination where he found Team 11 to be waiting. Upon seeing him both his sisters barreled into him while shouting Anakin. Unable to contain the force, he fell back down with both of them on his side. He chuckled before hugging them back and patting their heads. That was uncool /PFTT, what an idiot / I wonder if a person could die like that. Thought 3 pairs of eyes as they looked on to the scene in front of them. They were far away, hoping not to be spotted. However, Naruto sat up and looked over in their direction with a serious look on his face. It only happened for a second before he turned away and put on a smile again. This elicited surprised thoughts from the group of 3 again. He knows we are here / how did he spot us from over there / he is skilled much more than others we have seen here. The group of 3 thought. Soon however both Kushina and Itachi appeared. So sensei, what did you call us for? Naruto asked the question all the genins had in their mind. As you know, the chunin exams are coming up. And Kushina-sama and I have decided to recommend you for the exams. Naruto, you are a special case, you will take the exams solo as you do not have a team. Itachi explained as he handed the genin their forms. This is amazing, we can finally prove we are strong. Mito exclaimed with Narumi and Hinata nodding in agreement. Naruto chuckled at his sister's enthusiasm, which caused all 3 of them to glare at him. Nai-chan, what's so funny? Mito asked in a very sweet voice. Sweating a little, Naruto quickly replied and said, oh, it was funny when you said you wanted to prove your strength, but you have already proved it with your mission record. Mito smiled and nodded before she began talking to her friends again. This time Kushina spoke and said, if you want to take the exams, fill in those forms and submit them into the academy by Friday. Now Mito, Narumi, let's go home. You want to come, Naruto? Over the months she had tried to get Naruto to stay with them, but he rejected the notion, saying he was used to living alone and being independent. Kushina had reluctantly agreed only after Naruto agreed that he would eat with them at least twice a week. "Not today, I have some things to do today," Naruto said as he pocketed his form and left, with the three figures fast on his tail. As he was walking, he noticed a square rock with two perfectly shaped eye holes following him. He chuckled as he knew exactly who it was. He cast a sideways glance to the trio following him, letting them know that he was very much aware of their presence and would not hesitate to retaliate if they tried anything. He turned around and said, "All right, you three, that's enough, come out now." The rock disappeared in a puff of smoke and our very own Konohamaru Corps revealed themselves. "Hey boss, how are you? We haven't seen you in months," Konohamaru said. Sorry little bro, I had to go on a lot of missions outside the village. In fact, I just got home from my last mission yesterday," Naruto said. "Boss, you are amazing, you are already performing missions outside the village despite being a fresh out of the academy genin," Udon said with stars in his eyes. "Hey, now you are embarrassing me. How about this? Since I am free today, I will spend the entire day with you. Maybe even cook you something. How does that sound?" Naruto said with a grin, knowing the response he would get. "All right. Let's play ninja first." The three of them shouted and ran off. Chuckling, Naruto set off and quickly found both Moegi and Udon. He was on his way when he heard Konohamaru scream, "Let me go." Not wasting any time, Naruto rushed to the source at top speed and found Konohamaru being held from the collar by the ugliest girl he had ever seen. She was wearing a cat-like outfit and had a lot of makeup on. On the girl's side was another girl who had blonde pigtails and was quite the looker. Both of them were wearing the Suna headband. Naruto then said, "Excuse me miss, can you please let my friend go?" he said as the blonde girl started chuckling, whereas his three tailors were snickering. "I am a boy, you idiot. And no, he bumped into me. I won't let him go until I teach him a lesson," the cat boy said. He reared his fist back and was about to strike Konohamaru when he felt metal near his throat. Looking back, he was shocked to find Naruto behind him. He had a battle-hardened look in his eyes which promised the cat-like boy unimaginable pain. The blonde-haired girl was about to act to help her teammate, but she found a clone holding a sword to her throat. "Who the hell is this guy? I didn't even see him move or make any hand signs," both the Tsunade thought. "He is so cool / this guy is a monster. How is he still a genin / I wonder if I have to fight him he will kill me," the three nin tailing Naruto thought. "I wasn't asking you, cat makeup clown. Let me rephrase what I said, drop the kid or your head leaves your shoulder," Naruto said in a cold voice. It caused the cat-like boy to wince and he readily let go of Konohamaru, who ran off after thanking Naruto. Naruto then shushed back to the front and said, "I take it you are here for the Chunin exams, so I would advise you to take your partner from the tree and head back to your hotel before you cause an international incident." Both of the Tsunade's eyes widened as they turned to look at the tree which Naruto had mentioned, to see a red head with a gourd look at them impassively. "Gee Gaara, we were just..." The cat-like boy started but was cut off when the red-headed boy disappeared in a sand shuzen, reappearing in front of the two. He said, "Kankuro, Tamari, you are disgrace, stop it." "But Gaara, they started it." Kankuro tried to argue. "You are annoying, shut up or I will kill you," Gaara said in a voice which promised death. Gaara then turned and said to Naruto, "Forgive my teammates, I will ensure they stay in line." "May I know your name?" "Naruto Uzumaki." "Yours?" Naruto asked back. "Gaara no Sabaku." "We shall meet in the Chunin exams." Naruto Uzumaki, mother finds your blood interesting," Gaara said as he turned around and led his teammates away. Naruto sighed before turning to his side and said, "So how long do you three intend to play cat?" As soon as he said that, three figures jumped out and landed in front of him. One was a girl with tanned face, she had fiery red hair with earrings on her ears. She also had a sword strapped on her back. The next was a tanned boy with white hair, he had a lollipop in his mouth and had a bored expression on his face. As soon as he saw the third figure he felt his breath leaving him. Standing in front of him was the prettiest girl he had ever seen. She was blonde with mid-back length hair. She had beautiful bluish-green eyes. She had a decent C-cup bust which for her age was very developed. As much as he tried he couldn't stop himself from directly looking at her and saying beautiful. She herself was looking at Naruto and couldn't help but think handsome. The blonde-haired girl caught his look and what he said. She blushed slightly but didn't say anything. Naruto then shook his head and said, Who are you guys and why are you following me? We are here for the Chunin exams and you are the strongest competitor, so it's obvious we would try to gain information on our obstacles. The red-headed girl answered. That sounds fair. What are your names? Mine's Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto asked. Samui. The blonde girl answered. Karui. The redhead answered. Omoi. The whitehead answered. Wow, your names totally rhyme, so what are you guys up to? Naruto asked. Well, we decided to explore the village but got lost and then we saw you and decided to spy on you. Now that we have admitted, you will report us to the authorities. They will arrest us and then the Raikage will be forced to pay our ransom. Because of this mistake we will be stripped of our shinobi license and be banished. Omoi said as he ranted on before he got hit on the head by Karui, who shouted. Shut up, you idiot. Ah, Karui, don't take out your anger on being a flat chest on me. Omoi retorted back. After which Karui punched him into the ground. Naruto's sweat dropped at the scene and turned to Samui and asked, Are they always like this? Pretty much. She replied with a nod. You wanna go eat somewhere? He asked her, hoping she would agree. No, we will return to our hotel. Goodbye, said Samui as she signaled her teammates to follow her. He was so pretty / cute. Thought Naruto and Samui respectively as they moved back towards their lodgings. Time skip. Day of the exam, *. Naruto was walking toward the academy for the first part of the exam. As he turned the last corner he saw Team 7 entering the building. He shrugged and entered. After climbing the first 2 flights of stairs he saw several candidates were attempting to get past a door, but were being stopped. Turning on his Sharingan he saw that it was a genjutsu and realized it must have been set up to weed out the weaklings. Nodding to himself he climbed the rest of the stairs and entered the real exam room, which only had the team from Suna and the team from Kyumo. As soon as he entered both Samui and his eyes met before they both blushed and looked away. Going into one of the corners he leaned back on the wall and closed his eyes. There were still 2 hours left for the test to begin. He however was wondering why his sisters weren't here. They could easily have seen through a genjutsu thanks to the Byakugan. He then realized that they must have been waiting for Team 6. Nodding to himself he decided to train his sensor abilities to the next level and read the feelings that others had at a certain moment. He felt boredom come from Omoi, excitement from Karui, and finally what surprised him was confusion from Samui. Her chakra felt conflicted as if she was going through an internal war. Shrugging he turned his attention to the Suna team. Kankuro felt confident and excited, Temari was confident and Gaara. As soon as Naruto felt Gaara he went on high alert. This was not your average genin. The amount of bloodlust his chakra was oozing was unreal. He decided to inform the authorities as soon as he could so as to avoid any unnecessary life loss during the exams. As time went by one the teams entered the hall until 5 minutes before the exam the rest of the rookies entered. Kiba looked around and after spotting the rookies he loudly exclaimed, well looky here, all of the rookie 13 made it. We are going to kick some major ass. As he said that all the other genins turned to glare at the group. Ino was shaking under the ki whereas the others looked impassive. Suddenly a boy having silver hair, in a ponytail hairstyle appeared. He was wearing circle-shaped glasses as well. You should probably quieten down, you don't want to paint a target on your back, said a tall boy with silver hair and circular glasses that looked 2 or 3 years older than the rookie genin. Who are you, said Naruto, wary of the new arrival. Oh, I'm sorry, my name is Kabuto and seeing as you are rookie genin I assumed you could use some information on the exams. I myself have taken them 7 times. Kabuto finished. This turned on the warning bells inside Naruto's brain. He had studied Kabuto's chakra. The control and amount was equal to that of an elite jonin. Why was he still a genin? Wow, 7 times, you must really suck, said Kiba. Well, that or the exams could be a lot harder than they appear, the spectacle wearing genin said. Whatever, me and Akamaru are going to the finals, isn't that right, boy? The Inuzuka said, getting a bark in agreement from the puppy in his jacket. Anyway, I have these info cards, they have information on all the teams and even the individual members, said Kabuto. Okay then, Rock Lee, said Sayuri. Sabaku no Gara, said Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto, even though it's troublesome to ask, finished Shikamaru. Oh, you know their names, well that's not hard then, let's see. Rock Lee, here we go. It says here he has no skill in nin or genjutsu because he has a disease which has led to underdeveloped chakra coils. But his taijutsu is off the charts. Team members are Hyuga, Niji and Tenten, and his sensei is Mideo Guy. He's done 42D ranks and 35C rank missions, Kabuto said before shuffling his cards. Okay, next is Sabaku no Gara. Well, this is a shock, I have really little on him. All I can tell you is he has done 12D ranks, 52C ranks and 1B rank mission and has never been injured. The silver-haired ninja informed the Konoha rookies. This shocked several of the rookies at thought of going on all those missions and never picking up a single injury. Now Naruto Uzumaki. Wow, his stats are of the charts. He has performed 0D ranks, 27C ranks, 8 ranks and 3A ranks. He is exceptional in Fuinjutsu, Ninjutsu and Taijutsu. His chakra control is so good it is said that he has created 16 plus jutsus based on chakra control alone. He is very efficient in using his Kekai Genka, the adamantine chains. In the past few months he has taken up Kenjutsu and has progressed quite well in the field. Overall, I would say that he should be avoided at all costs during these exams. Kabuto said. Naruto narrowed his eyes. The information that Kabuto was only accessible to elite Jonin or the Hokage. Him having this information, along with the fact that this was his 7th time taking the exam when he was easily Jonin level, pointed to the fact that he was spy. For whom that was a question for another time. Kiba looked at Naruto in shock and shouted, I knew you were strong, but when did you go a ranks? Shut up, Kiba, you are way too loud. But if you must know, the last month was when me and my sensei performed 3A ranks before coming back home. Naruto said as he placed a trap for Kabuto. If Kabuto interjected now, it would confirm that he was a spy. Hey, that's not right, my information says you went on 2A ranks last month. Kabuto said, unknowingly confirming Naruto's theory. Hey, that was me just trying to look cool. Naruto said as he showed his tongue. The only person who saw through him was Aizen. Despite being a loud mouth, he was Naruto's best friend and the second strongest of their generation. The time they had spent together made both of them know exactly what the other was thinking. Naruto subtly made hand signs and informed Aizen of his suspicions. Aizen made an unnoticeable nod, confirming that he felt the same. Before anyone could say anything, a puff of smoke appeared in the room and from it a Jonin revealed himself. He was a tall man with a scared face and a purple bandana on his head. Naruto for some unknown reason wanted to call him Bandana Man. The man spoke and said, my name is Ibiki Marino and I will be the proctor for the first exam. Get on your allocated seat number and we will begin. Alright maggot, sit down, it's time for the first exam, came a voice as a large man with scars all over his face walked in and stood behind the desk. My name is Ibiki Marino, and I will be the proctor for the first test. You will have 1 hour to answer the 10 questions. You will not be given the final question until the final 10 minutes. If you are caught cheating for a total of 5 times, you and your team will be disqualified. That said, you can use whatever jutsu or abilities you want to get the answers. You begin now. He finished and sat down and smirked at the looks of horror on the genin's face when they saw the questions. Naruto's eyes widened looking at the questions in front. They were easily Jonin level. No genin except Shikamaru could solve them. And that was because of his insane intelligence. Suddenly a look of realization dawned on Naruto's face. It's a test to gather information. He said we could use any tool needed to gain the information. So we need to cheat in an undetectable way. Smirking to himself, he closed his eyes and started focusing on the chakras around him. They were all anxious, worried, confused and afraid. Except for 2 signatures. Naruto then focused before he found one of them. Said ninja was sitting in front of him. Those 2 must have been planted as information beacons for the other genins to use. Naruto thought as he activated his Sharingan and copied the writing pattern of the Jonin sitting in front of him. In mere minutes he was finished. He turned his paper around and started looking at how the other rookies were doing. Sayuri, like him, had used her Sharingan to copy the writing of someone who was fluently writing. Hinata was using her Byakugan to spot and write the answers she could find in the room. Shino was using his bugs to find the answers. Sakura, thanks to her reading habits, had answered most of the questions correctly. Ino had used her clan's mind transfer jutsu to take over Sakura and then read her answers. Shikamaru already knew them and used his shadow connecting jutsu to help Chuji. Yakumo had used a mirror-like genjutsu only visible to her to find the answers. Naruto then turned to look at his sisters and best friend. He wasn't surprised when he found all three of the sweating. Sighing, he summoned 3 small toads. He supplied them with the answers and sent one each to Narumi, Mito, and Aizen. After a few minutes the toads disappeared. Naruto looked at Aizen, who grinned at him. Grinning back, they had a mental conversation. "Thanks. Anytime." Turning his attention to his sisters, he saw them crying anime tears. He already knew the reason for that. It was because he had promised to cook for them if they took their theoretical study seriously. He knew they tried, but somehow, thanks to the dominant Uzumaki genes, they weren't able to just sit and read. He himself knew that the threat he had given them was an empty one. His sisters had a soft spot in his heart. Which was why he decided he would cook them ramen as a good effort for at least trying. He chuckled as he remembered his sisters' antics. He then focused on the Suna and Kyumo teams. He saw that the cat boy Kankuro had used a puppet of his to get the answers for him. Gaara had created a third eye out of his sand and had sent it around the room spotting answers. Temari had used a little burst of wind to replace her test with one that had all the answers done. Naruto was surprised when he saw the coordination being displayed by the Kyumo team. Samui was writing the answers on small paper pieces before discreetly passing to Omoi, who after noting the answers sent it towards Karui disguised as a lollipop. After he was done observing, he suddenly turned unnaturally serious and met Ibiki's eyes. He then made some discreet signs with his fingers towards Ibiki. Ibiki became shocked when he saw the hand signs. Those were used by ANBUs to send messages in the group without alerting the enemy. He then paid attention to what the message was saying. Kabuto Yakushi is Orochimaru's spy. He told Ibiki through hand signs. Ibiki's eyes widened before he hardened them and discreetly used his fingers to say, "Are you sure?" "Positive. He has information that should only be accessible to those with Jonin level clearance. And he has a distinct scent of snakes on him." Naruto replied. Nodding, Ibiki discreetly signaled the ANBU to be on guard. He decided to take this information to the Hokage as soon as the test was over. He then looked at Naruto, who nodded and leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes. Ibiki looked at Naruto before a look of recognition dawned in his eyes. "So that's Itachi's brat. It seems like he is as good as they say." Ibiki thought before giving Rai's smile at the irony of the situation. The test was to gather information in a tight position, but somehow the kid had secured information that could potentially save the village. Life sure is ironic, Minato. You beat Orochimaru for the seat and now your son is screwing up Orochimaru's plan. Ibiki thought as he remembered his old teammate and friend. After 45 minutes Ibiki shouted and said. "Alright maggots, your time is up. Now it's time for the 10th question. You have a choice on whether you wish to take it or not." "Of course we will take it." A random genin shouted back. Ibiki smirked and said, "Well, if you answer the question wrong you won't be able to take the exams again in your career. And if one of your team members gives up the whole team fails but can always take the test again. So decide." "You can't do that." Kiba shouted. "Of course I can, in these exams I am the god. My word goes on whether your sorry asses pass or not." Ibiki replied back. "But there are so many people who have taken this exam more than once." Karui shouted. "Well, tough luck to be you guys. Now you decide whether you will take the question or not." Ibiki replied with a smirk. Suddenly the tension in the room skyrocketed. Genins from nearly all the teams could be seen sweating, with a few hyperventilating. A few moments later several hands went up into the air and several teams left the room. The tension in the room was affecting everyone except Naruto. He was simply laying back in his seat with his eyes closed. The sight of him relaxed infuriated Ibiki a little. He was used to people quivering in his presence. Someone this relaxed was something unnerving even to him. "You blondie, you think you can take the question?" Ibiki yelled as he pointed at Naruto. "Sure, why not?" Naruto lazily replied back. "Are you ready for the consequences in case that you fail?" Ibiki said, trying to darken Naruto with self-doubt. "Nah, not really. Even if I am a permanent genin, my dream won't be affected. After all, if I become the strongest ninja in the village, I will be bound to become the Hokage." Naruto casually replied with a smirk, letting Ibiki know that his attempts had been foiled. Ibiki looked around the room and saw that no one else was really leaving, so he sighed and said, "Everyone who stayed, passes." After a few seconds, a combined shout of "WHAAT" rang out in the classroom as Ibiki began to explain the true purpose of the test. The real purpose of the first 9 questions was to see how good your information gathering was. You will be given missions as chunin that require you to collect information in very unfavorable and taxing conditions. The 9 questions were used to judge how you gathered and relayed that information. Ibiki said. "What about the 10th question?" Samui asked. "Yo, bandana man, mind if I answer this one?" Naruto lazily asked. Ibiki's eyes twitched at the nickname before he stiffly nodded, and Naruto said the choice to take the 10th question was the real question. In our lives as ninja, there will instances of missions with high loss probability. There is a high risk of being caught or killed. In that moment we can't decide whether to take the mission or not. So we should always be ready to take risks. Ain't that right, bandana man? He is correct. However, removes bandana revealing a scarred head, one should be mentally strong. If you are caught by enemy shinobis, they will torture you to the bone to find information. You must remember to keep the village ahead of yourself at all times so that you don't give away any information. Ibiki answered as he elicited gasps from the class, who greatly became unnerved by the sight of the scars. Naruto, however, wasn't affected, as his own body was a beacon of scars that he always watched before leaving. Before anyone could reply, a purple blur jumped in the room and broke the window. In a puff of smoke, a large sign appeared which read "Proctor for the second exam, the sexy and the single Anko Mitarashi." All the girls except Samui were looking on envy at Anko beauty, while the boys except Naruto were drooling. Naruto then quickly wrote a 9 on paper over the message, "You rock, Anko Nei-chan." Looking at the score, Anko gave a fake hurt look and said, "Agaki, that was surely a 10. You hurt Nei-chan's feelings. Nei-chan, that point got knocked off because you were early. And don't sell yourself short, a 9 is amazing." Naruto replied, looking at his crazy older sister of a figure who had trained him in evasion when he was a kid. "Agaki, you sure know how to cheer me up." "Oi Ibiki, I am not early, am I?" she asked. "Yup, you are early again, Anko," he said as Anko blushed in embarrassment and Naruto snickered. Anko shushin straight to him and bonked him on the head. "Ow, what was that for Nei-chan?" Naruto asked as he rubbed his head. The closeness shared by the two didn't go unnoticed by the room. As more than one girl had their eyes narrowed at Anko. The twins didn't like the idea of having a crazy snake lady as an older sister. Anko's dressing went against the Hyuga code, which Hinata frowned upon. Sayuri looked aloof. She had become even more distant after she had confronted Naruto in the wave. Nowadays she remained stoic most of the time, and the only person she talked to was Kakashi. Even Samui had narrowed her eyes at Anko, but even she herself didn't know the reason why. It was an involuntary reflex. She needed to talk to a few people regarding this. "That was for laughing at me, you brat," Anko said with a grin. Naruto just smirked mischievously, causing Anko to go on the defensive as he said, now Nei-chan, maybe I should tell." He however was cut off when Anko slapped a hand on his mouth. She then looked around the room and awkwardly chuckled, saying, "It's nothing, don't worry about it." Anko then glared at Naruto, who gave her an innocent smile. After a few seconds her eyes softened up and she ruffled his hair affectionately before moving to the front of room and counting the number of teams. Turning to Ibiki with a shocked look on her face, she said, "Damn Ibiki, 28 teams, you must be going soft. Not all, we have a much better crop this year round." Ibiki replied. "No matter, by the time I am through with them they will be cut down by half," Anko said before turning to the genins. She then shouted and said, "Alright maggots, meet me at training ground 44 in 20 minutes. You will be disqualified if you get late," she said as she jumped out of the window. Naruto sighed before moving to his sisters. He then shushined the three of them near the genin meeting point. 20 minutes later all the genin had arrived and were awaiting the instructions. Suddenly Anko appeared and said, "Welcome to the venue of the second part of the exam. It's my personal playground called the Forest of Death." She finished with a sadistic grin on her face that made most genin go white. Enjoying the look on the faces of the genins, she said, "All of you except you blonde," points at Naruto, "will be given either an Earth Scroll or a Heaven Scroll. To pass you need to collect both of them by the end of 5 days. You blonde will have to collect both of the scrolls." She finished making Naruto nod. Kiba in all his infinite wisdom decided to speak and say, "Hey, what's so special about this place? It doesn't look like much." As soon as he finished, a kunai grazed past his cheek, making a cut appear on his cheek. Before he could react, Anko had a kunai on his neck and she said, "It's brats like you who die first." Suddenly she felt another presence behind her. Turning around she saw that it was a Kusa Kunoichi. The Kunoichi said, "I am here to return your kunai." "Thank you, but don't you ever sneak up on me, I will kill you," Anko seriously replied. She then moved back to the front of the genin and called out, "Alright people, come and sign these papers." "What are these?" Mito asked. "These, my tomato, are papers that state it's in no way Konoha's fault if any of you end up dead. And let me warn you, if you are not careful in there you will die. There are human-eating plant along with animals bigger than anything you have ever seen. Of course you don't have to sign them, but you will be disqualified to take the exam." Anko gleefully answered. A few genin immediately left, not wanting to take the risk of death. Naruto calmly took his paper and signed it before closing his eyes. One thing he didn't know was that Samui was observing him. Unbeknownst to her, he had been attention to her as well. In both of their eyes they could be perfect partners. For Samui, Naruto was perfect. He was strong, good-hearted. If the way he interacted with people was anything to go by, he knew when to serious and when to be jolly. It was perfect. For Naruto, Samui was the ideal kunoichi. She was strong, had a calm and collected personality, and was beautiful beyond measure. Both of them hoped to get to know each other better in the future. Soon the genins left to go to their respective entry sites. As soon as the gates were opened, all the genin rushed inside, hence beginning the second part of the Chunin exams. All the genins were rushing into the forest hoping to find the scrolls they required as soon as possible. All except Naruto, who stopped running 100 meters into the forest. He bit his thumb, drawing a little blood before going through hand signs and slamming his hand on the floor and shouting summoning jutsu. 2 toads appeared in puffs of smoke. Both of them were as tall as Naruto was. One was a yellow toad with red markings on his body. He had a look of airiness in his face. His cheeks were also chubby in looks. The second toad was red in color and had purple markings on his face. They were 2 of Naruto's best friends and his personal summons. They were the only ones who knew of Naruto's work in recreating his dad's fabled jutsus. You guessed it, they were our favorite summons of all time, Gamatatsu and Gamakichi. "Yo bro, why did you call us here?" Kichi curiously asked. "Oh, I am taking part in the Chunin exams, but I am going solo. I summoned you 2 to be my teammates for this phase of the exam," Naruto casually replied. "Naruto, do you have any snacks?" Tatsu asked airily. "I do, but I will give them to you after we safely complete this portion of the exam." "Deal?" Naruto. "Deal." Both toads said, and all 3 set off to find the teams. "Guys, sense the nearest team, we will take them out and take their scrolls," Naruto said. Both of them sensed 2 teams already fighting it out some 100 meters out. Kichi looked at Naruto and said, "Bro, 2 teams dishing it out 100 meters north. Alright, we will use combo Draco 1127 and knock 'em all together. Understand?" Naruto instructed. "You got it / hey ye thi." Both the toads replied at the same time. The 3 of them then picked up speed and raced towards the area where the 2 other genin teams were dishing it out. Soon they reached a clearing where they saw a team from IWA battling with a team from AIM. He looked at the two toads and signaled for them to start. The two of them silently nodded and Tatsu released his toad oil and ran around the clearing creating a circle that surrounded the 6 fighting genin. Kichi then looked in the oil and fired a fire-style fire bullet jutsu. Thanks to the oil the 6 genin were surrounded in a ring of fire which caused all of them to abandon all the fighting and go on the defensive in front of the enemy. None of them noticed that Naruto had created 3 clones. The 3 clones then jumped into the air directly above the clearing and went through 3 different hand signs. Water-style water bullet jutsu, said the first clone. Wind-style wind bullet jutsu, said the second one. Lightning-style lightning ball jutsu. The third clone said. The water bullet grew exponentially in size thanks to the wind bullet. The enlarged water bullet then combined with the lightning increasing its attack power greatly. The enlarged elemental bullet hit all 6 genin head-on causing a small explosion in the clearing. When the dust cleared Naruto saw all 6 genin lying on the floor battered, bruised and unconscious. He immediately sent his clones to retrieve the scrolls. He found both the earth and heaven scrolls. Smiking to himself he collected both of the scrolls and sent both Kichi and Tatsu back after giving them their snacks that he had sealed. Just as he was about to head toward the tower he heard a pained scream coming some 50 meters his right. He immediately took off to find out the source of the scream. With Kumo's team, asterisk. The Kumo team had already gained their earth scroll from a team from Konoha. And were heading towards the tower when they were assaulted by a pack of giant wolves. The 3 of them were able to fight them up for a while before Omoi and Karui were critically hit causing her to scream. Samui now had to fight protecting her friends. She then displayed her true strength and managed to take out 3 wolves before she got a bad slash on her leg causing to give a loud scream. As she was panting on one knee the wolves were stalking the trio ready to attack at a moment's notice. This was the scene that Naruto had walked in on. Despite them being shinobi from a different village Naruto could not in his right state of mind sit back and let them die. Specifically after seeing the first girl who made his heart flutter in that condition. Jumping into action he threw 4 kunai and then created a single-handed ram sign before shouting Shadow Kunai Clone Jutsu. The 4 kunai multiplied into 400 because of the chakra he put into them. The kunais landed right in front of the wolves hampering their movement. Landing in front of Samui Naruto without turning asked are you and your friends okay? Yes. She answered in a cold voice without taking her eyes off the wolves. Naruto knew he couldn't take on all the wolves so he unsealed his Sharingan and stared deep into the alpha's eyes causing him to drop down on the ground unconscious. Seeing their leader down the rest of the wolves retreated. Naruto then turned to face Samui who held up her sword in a defensive manner. Seeing that Naruto raised his arms in a diffusing manner and said I am not here to fight you I have already collected my scrolls what about you? Samui knew she didn't have to answer Naruto but somehow she couldn't really stop herself from trusting him and nodded in confirmation. He then created 2 clones that lifted her teammates before he himself lifted her in a bridal carry. Her cheeks became slightly pink but her logical mind told her that it was for the best after all he felt like someone she could trust in. So would you like to have a talk after this phase of the exam is over? Naruto asked trying to strike up a conversation with her as he and his clones raced towards the tower. Samui on her part was mentally berating herself. He is carrying me so uncool yet cool at the same time. He must be thinking about how uncool I am. She thought before she heard Naruto calling her. So what will it be? Wanna meet up after the second phase? Naruto asked. Are you asking me out on a date? She asked in her usual cold monotone voice. I don't really know it kinda depends on you. If you want a date I can give you one. He said with a loop-side grin. Samui just blushed slightly before muttering a baka. They arrived at the tower after 2 hours after which they opened their scrolls and their senseis arrived. Sensei. Both genin said at the same time. The Kumo Jonin was a blonde-haired kunoichi wearing the regular Kumo Jonin uniform. Both she and Itachi raised their eyebrows at each other before looking at their genins with questioning looks. After explaining the whole thing the Kumo Jonin thanked Naruto for saving her genin before turning to Itachi and saying, It's good to see you again Raven specifically under better conditions. The Kumo Jonin said. Same here Cat, though I didn't expect our students to finish so soon and that too at the same time. Itachi replied in a monotone voice. Turning to the genin, Itachi said, Naruto, you guys pass, go take the three of them to the medics before finding a room for yourself. I will meet you later on. Nodding, Naruto took the three Kyumo genin away, leaving the senseis alone. As soon as their surroundings were clear, the Kyumo jonin jumped and kissed Itachi square on the lips. When they broke up a few minutes later, the Kyumo jonin said, I have missed you, Itachi. Same here, Yugi, same here. I hope the Raikage finally makes an alliance. Spending time away from you is very tough. Itachi answered back. Both of them then found a secluded corner where they resumed their *intimate activities. After dropping the two Kyumo genin to the medical bay, Naruto carried Samui to a room. As soon as she lay down on a bed, she started massaging her shoulders. Naruto, looking at that, got confused and asked, do your shoulders hurt? She wordlessly nodded, after which Naruto asked, want me to give you a massage? I am a natural. She looked at him blankly before he said, I am not getting any ideas, it's just a massage, that's all. She again wordlessly nodded and turned her back to Naruto as he began his massage. As soon as he started, Samui felt a wave of bliss pass through her, and she could only think of one thing at that moment in time. He is so cool. With Team 6 asterisk. Alright, I will hold the scroll and we take out the first team we come across. I spied using my Sharingan and found that all Konoha genin teams received the Heaven Scroll, so all we need is to find an Earth Scroll. Understand? Sayuri asked her two teammates. Both of them nodded and the three of them ran off. After a few minutes, Kiba said, stop guys, I need to take a leak. Both girls sighed at his bluntness before Sayuri nodded and said, fine, but let's keep a password for when you come back. Kiba and Sakura nodded as Sayuri thought for a moment before clicking her fingers and saying, Valley of the End shall turn into the valley beginning when US collide. Both of the other genins nodded and Kiba left. After a few minutes, a smiling Kiba appeared and Sayuri said, password mut. For some reason Kiba didn't mind and said, Valley of the End will be the valley of the beginning when US collide. As soon as he finished, both Sayuri and Sakura attacked him, sending him flying into the tree. They then used a ninja wire to tie him to a tree. The unconscious Kiba faded away and Aim Shinobi was seen. Suddenly two figures jumped out of the trees and were about to attack Sayuri and Sakura when Fong over Fong. Kiba's voice called out as two spiraling white tornadoes hit the attackers, sending them crashing into the ground, knocking them out. Kiba smirked and looked at the amused faces of the other genins before saying, we got them good, didn't we? We sure did. Sakura said as Sayuri gave her usual HN as a response. After collecting their scroll, all three of them started running toward the tower when they were hit by a very strong wave of Ki. It was much stronger than when they had faced Zabuza and immediately sent the three of them on to their knees. From the ground, Akusa Kunoichi appeared and chuckled at the three shaking genin in front of her. She then released a little more killing intent and all three genins were now seeing visions of their deaths. It wasn't a genjutsu, it was pure killing intent, it couldn't be dispelled. Same as manga. Orochimaru kicks their asses. Just then Orochimaru extended his neck and was about to bite Sayuri to red blurs appeared and hit him back. Team 7 landed in front of Team 6 ready for battle. Looking at them, Sayuri stuttered out, run, he is on a whole other level. Both Mito and Narumi channeled Kyuubi's chakra and entered their two-tailed states, which was the limit of their current control. And stood in front of Orochimaru ready to fight. Ah, so the Kyuubi brats are here. Now this should be a little interesting. Kukukukuku. Orochimaru said. Both Mito and Narumi attacked him at the same time, with Hinata trying to heal the others. Orochimaru was simply dodging their every attack. They may be high-level chunin, but they right now could not keep up with someone of the Sannin. Soon Orochimaru summoned two snakes that restrained both Mito and Narumi, and he then applied the Gyugo Fuin on their seals and then bit Sayuri, branding her with the curse mark of the heavens. Just as he applied the Gyugo Fuin, Naruto felt something in his seal shift. He guessed that something must be linking his and his sister's seals. Meaning if his was acting up, something had happened to his sisters. He excused himself from Samui with a promise of coming back in an hour and left the room. He found an ANBU and shouted, "Umbu-san, can you go check on Mito and Narumi Uzumaki? I don't know why, but I feel like that they are in trouble." The ANBU was Kat, and she knew Naruto since he was a kid, hence she knew that this wasn't a joke. She then nodded and flared chakra into her mark, informing the other ANBUs before she left, following the rapidly declining chakra signature of the twins. The ANBUs arrived in the clearing to see the Orochimaru disappearing after saying, "Now you have my gift, Sayuri-chan, I want to see whether you survive or not," he said as he threw a scroll at Team 6 and left. Kat instructed the other ANBUs to create a clone and take all the genin since they had their scrolls and were met with special circumstances. Arriving to the tower, they were met with a worried, sick Naruto, who immediately started checking Mito and Narumi for any damage. He found another seal over their original one and immediately released it, giving his sisters their control over chakra back. He then started studying their seals and indeed did find linking seals, but what surprised him was that the linking seal wasn't a simple warning seal. The seal was linked with chakra recharge seal. Naruto, thanks to his sharp mind, immediately connected the dots. This seal took the chakra that Kyuubi recharged and gave it to his sisters. He smiled at his dad thoughtfulness. Even in his dying moments he ensured that all his kids would have a tool to defend themselves with. He was given the Toads and the Sharingan, whereas his sisters were exclusively given Kyuubi's chakra. What a guy. Definitely the best seal master in history. Uzumaki's be damned. Naruto thought as he created clones to take everyone to the medic bay. After dropping them off, he returned to Samui like he promised and continued her massage. Some time later, when Itachi and Yujito were looking for Samui and Naruto, they heard the voice of the two said genin. "Right there," Samui said blissfully. "Here?" Naruto voice asked. "Not that hard, it's my first time," Samui shakily said. "Don't worry, I am an expert, I know what I am doing, so sit back and relax," Naruto said as Samui gave a moan of pleasure. Having enough, both the Jonin decided to catch the genin in the act and opened the door. They saw Samui laying down on the bed with her back towards Naruto, who was giving her a massage. Both the genins looked at their senseis in a confused manner. Both the senseis awkwardly whistled and left them to what they were doing. Samui blushed a little as she understood what the two Jonins had presumed. Naruto, on the other hand, with all his infinite wisdom, looked confused as hell. Time skip 5 days, asterisk. During the 5 days at the tower, both Samui and Naruto had bonded in a strange way. They had become friends. Naruto gave her a massage, then they would lay on the same bed and talk for hours. Both of them were internally conflicted. They both knew that they had feelings for each other but didn't know how to project them. Being from different villages that had no alliance didn't help their cause. Both of them learnt several things about each other. Samui told him about her hot-headed brother, who was her polar opposite. The fact that she had been personally raised by the Yondaime Reikage after his best friend and her father had died on a mission 8 years ago. Naruto told her that people hated him as a kid because of his whisker-like marks on his face. He told her of the attack and how he grew up and trained on his own until he became a genin and then finally Itachi's apprentice. Needless to say, both had started feeling a pull towards each other. It was like a red string of fate. The time had gone by rather quickly. A total of 12 teams had made it to tower, including the Suna team, the Kumo team, the rookies, and several other Konoha teams. As they were waiting in the hall, the Hokage began a speech outlining the use of the Chunin exams as a replacement for war, and genins die in the third part of the exam. After that, it was announced that as the number of genins who passed were too great for the third exam, so it was announced that a preliminary third round was to take place before the official final exam began. As he announced that, the big board on the wall began to shine and the matchups were announced. Hinata vs Niji. Mito vs Sakura. Narumi vs Ino. Sayuri vs Yakumo. Karui vs Rei, random Konoha genin. Omoi vs Ren. Samui vs Kankuro. Kiba vs Naruto. Aizen vs Lee. Shikamaru vs Kin. Choji vs Dosu. Zaku vs Shino. Temari vs Ten. Gaara gets a free pass after several other genins dropped out of the test. Will everyone except Niji Hyuga and Hinata Hyuga leave the arena and head to the waiting rails? Also, all the clan heads will be watching the prelims. announced Hayate the proctor. This news was a little surprising, but everyone else complied. Most of the genin were excited. Both Hinata and Niji stared at each other. Both of them knew that Niji was stronger of the two, and if they fought he would undoubtedly come out as the winner. But she also knew that she needed to win in order to remain in the good books of her father and her family's council. After the match was started, Niji activated his Byakugan and said, "You should give up, Hinata-sama. We both know that fate has decreed me to the winner today." Niji said, "Yes, I know that you are stronger than me, however I will win this match." Fuin. Hinata finished with a shout, and immediately Niji grabbed his head and screamed in agony. Naruto immediately activated his Sharingan and was surprised when he saw that there was seal on Niji that was sending harmful waves of chakra into his brain. If it didn't stop soon he would die. He immediately jumped into the ring and pointed his blade at Hinata's neck and in a cold voice said, "Stop right now, the battle is over. Leave." Hinata was heartbroken that Naruto of all people had threatened to kill her. For what a branch member. Maybe he was just a useless peasant unworthy of a Hyuga. She just humphed and said Kai, causing Niji to stop screaming, but he was still clutching his head in pain and was twitching. Naruto sheathed his sword and nodded to the proctor, who announced winner of the first match Hinata Hyuga. Naruto then moved to Niji before helping him stand and then taking him to the medical ward. Once there he saw the doctor and nurses who were kind to him. He guessed it was to ensure he was healed. Naruto helped the doctors lay Niji on a bed before he said, "I am going to apply a seal on him that should help reverse the damage on his brain." The doctors knew of his talent and nodded. Naruto then took out a seal and then placed it on Niji's arm and said "Fuin." A green light was emitted by his seal and soon Niji stopped withering and relaxed before sleep overtook him. Turning to the doctor, Naruto said he should be up soon. The seal will stop automatically when the damage will be fixed or it runs out of healing chakra. The doctor and nurses could only stupidly nod. They knew of his talent in seals, but something like this was nothing short of revolutionary. This seal could save tons of lives on the battlefield. He had to talk to the Hokage about this. Naruto then left the room and walked into Hayashi, who was waiting outside the door. Naruto's eyes hardened when he saw him and said, "So Hayashi-sama here to gloat on your nephew?" Hayashi didn't say anything and just stared at Naruto before saying, "Why did you save Niji?" "Because you failed to," Naruto said and walked away, leaving a stunned Hayashi behind. As he watched Naruto go, Hayashi thought about Naruto. He felt that the boy was a demon because of the soul sealed in him. However, he saved his daughter but caused his brother to die. No, Hayashi thought. His brother died because of himself. That kidnapping shouldn't have happened. They had the all-seeing eye. It was the clan's fault. He had failed to save his brother and now had failed to save his brother's son, who had ironically been saved by the so-called demon brat. Hayashi felt his opinion on Naruto changing a little. As he was walking away, Hayashi could have sworn he saw the visage of an old friend of his and his old teammate. A ghost-like smile appeared on Hayashi's face as he saw the vision. "I see, so he is your son Minato. I am sorry for my treatment towards him. But now I know what to do. Thank you again, good friend." Back in the arena *. Now we will move to the next match. It will be Sakura Haruno vs Mito Uzumaki. Hayate announced. As Mito was about to enter the field, Naruto whispered to her and said, "She is a specialist in genjutsu. Break free from the first one and then check for a second before using your speed and knocking her out." Mito nodded and smiled at the advice before jumping the rail and landing in front of Hayate as they waited for Sakura, who arrived a few moments later. "Begin," Hayate said as Sakura immediately went through hand signs for casting the misdirection genjutsu, which Mito immediately dispelled before going on the offensive. Using her speed, she went behind Sakura and delivered a chop on her neck, knocking her out. The winner of the second match is Mito Uzumaki. Will Narumi Uzumaki and Ino Yamanaka please come into the field? Hayate announced as the medics took Sakura away and Mito returned to the stands and high-fived Naruto, Narumi and Hinata. After which Narumi was about to jump the railing when Naruto whispered to her, "Don't stand on one spot and she won't be able to use her clan jutsus. After that, get in and end it. She doesn't train, so a normal punch will be enough." Narumi smiled at her brother's advice before nodding and doing the same entry as her twin before her. Before the start of the match, Ino tried to trash talk to make Narumi lose her cool. "You should give up, you know. Being a part of the Uzumaki clan or not, you can't defeat me," Ino said, trying to rile Narumi up, who was now wearing a sweet smile. Oh boy. Naruto, Hinata and Mito simultaneously thought. They all knew what that face entailed. Ino was in for it. As soon as Heiate signal began, Narumi went through several hand signs before shouting water-style crashing water wave jutsu. A large torrent of water had erupted from the ground before hitting an unsuspecting Ino head on, sending her crashing into a wall, knocking her out. Everyone's sweat dropped at the ease the match was over in. As Heiate raised his hand and said, "Winner of this match, Narumi Uzumaki." As soon as that was announced, Kushina from the clan head side shouted, "Those are my daughters, Databane." The outburst caused most of the clan heads to facepalm, whereas people who interacted with Kushina on a daily basis chuckled in amusement. "Now I would request both Sayuri Uchiha and Yakumo Kurama to please enter the field," Heiate announced. Sayuri just humped and jumped over the railing and into the field. Yakumo took the scenic route into the field as she walked into the field to face her opponent. She was low on chakra as she had to use several taxing genjutsus during the 5 days and knew that her only chance to win was through taijutsu. Unbeknownst to her, even Sayuri was having similar thoughts thanks to the curse that Orochimaru had branded her with. Both of them eyed each other warily before jumping at each other after being signaled to begin. It was clear within minutes that Sayuri was the superior one when it came to taijutsu. Yakumo knew that she would lose as her stamina was dwindling fast and she would be unconscious in the next bout. Sayuri on the other hand was relatively fresh and then channel a very minute amount chakra into her feet, causing her mark to tingle but not be overly affected. In a burst of pace she caught Yakumo off guard before sending her into the air. Sayuri, using a similar burst, jumped into the air before shouting "Lion's Barrage" and sending Yakumo hard into the ground, rendering Yakumo unconscious. "Winner of match 4, Sayuri Uchiha," announced Heiate. As soon as he said that, Kakashi shushened into the field and took Sayuri with him. As they left, even Mikoto stood up from the clan head seats and left to visit her daughter, and to be with her during the sealing of her curse mark. "I would like to call Karui and Rei to come into the field for round 5. Heiate announced. Karui, being the hot-headed kunoichi she was, jumped over the rail and gracefully landed on the field waiting for her opponent. To her surprise, her opponent entered the field the same way she had done so. Both of them took their stances. Karui using her kenjutsu stance and Rei using her taijutsu stance. And both jumped towards each other the moment Heiate signaled them to begin. It was soon clear that Rei was stronger of the two kunoichi and relied more on her strength, with Karui being the exact opposite, as her kenjutsu style relied more along the lines of fast-paced and accurate attacks. Karui soon channeled her lightning chakra and surprised Ren, who had yet to start elemental manipulation. She fired 2 quick fire sea lightning jutsus, forcing Rei to jump back into the air. Karui then used this opportunity and slashed her on the back, sending her thumping into the ground and finally becoming unconscious. Karui panted. Rei had been the worst opponent for her. They were exact opposites of each other. The match had been taxing and Karui was on her last legs as she climbed the stairs to the stands. Winner Karui of Kumo. Now would Samui of Kumo and Kenkuro of Suna please step up? Hayata announced. Samui walked down the stairs and onto the field with the grace of a sharpened katana that cut through the air. She had an air of authority around her, and the coldness in her attitude seemed to resonate to her opponent, who was slightly shaking. The reason was that a visage of a giant tigress could be seen coming of Samui. As soon as the match was signaled to start, Samui went through a number of hand seals before shouting lightning-style lightning wolf. Naruto watched on in interest. He knew this jutsu as he had copied it back when he fought the Kyomo Jonin. He was really impressed at the execution of the said move. Samui pulled it off perfectly and didn't even look winded. Which was a surprise for Naruto, as the move she had pulled was near mid-A rank. No genin should have enough chakra for that. Well, no ordinary genin for that fact. Kenkuro however dodged the move before throwing several kunai at Samui. She deflected all of them with her sword. Both of them then rushed towards each other and started a battle with weapons. Soon however Samui found an opening and smashed Kenkuro into the wall. causing him to break open. Everyone realized that this Kankuro was just a puppet. Suddenly the real Kankuro appeared behind Samui and manipulated all the pieces of his broken puppet to attack. Samui in response used her pace to move faster than Kankuro and cut of the chakra thread, leaving the puppet without its master. Using this distraction, Kankuro threw a few poison-laced senbon at her, which hit, causing her to go on one knee. "Give up that poison was an aphrodisiac. I will give you an immediate antidote if you give up," Kankuro smugly said to the panting girl in front of him. Naruto was glaring daggers at Kankuro. How dare that bastard do something so embarrassing to a kunoichi. If he won this round, Naruto would crush him personally. Samui though had other ideas. She immediately channeled and sent lightning chakra throughout her body, which caused mild vibrations to break out on her skin. The vibrations were strong enough to pull the effects of the drug, leaving a perfectly fine Samui behind. Samui then stood up and in a burst of speed was behind Kankuro. She then hit him on the neck, knocking him out completely. As he fell down, she looked at him in disgust and said, "You are very uncool." She then walked up to her team. As she walked, she and Naruto locked eyes with each other and an unspoken conversation took place between them. "You alright, Sam?" "Yes." "Massage tonight?" "Cool." "Right, see you after the exams." "Cool." "Winner of the match, Samui of Kyumo. Will Ren of Konoha and Omoi of Kyumo please enter the field?" Hayate announced as both the competitors entered the field at a lazy pace, causing everyone who was watching to sweat drop at them. Both Omoi and Ren stared at each other lazily before Omoi lazily looked at Hayate and said, "I quit. My injury from the forest still isn't healed and I won't be able to fight effectively." Hayate nodded and said, "Winner by forfeit, Ren of Konoha." Omoi then walked back to his team where Karui started chewing him out, but he just lazily sucked on his lollipop, ignoring her completely. "Will Naruto and Uzumaki and Kiba Inuzuka please step into the field?" Hayate announced. Naruto jumped into the field after receiving good lucks from his sisters and friends. Kiba, on the other hand, was sweating. He knew firsthand about how strong Naruto was. He was bound to lose, but for some reason he was afraid to even move. Sensing his fear, Naruto smiled at him and said, "Nakiba, go all out. Show me the power of the Inuzuka clan. Show me why you will become the strongest clan head in your clan's history." This seemed to bring Kiba out of his fear-induced stupor, and he cracked his fingers before taking the four-legged Inazaka stance. Tsum Inazaka, Kiba's mother, was slightly shocked. She never expected the so-called demon brat to be so kind to her pup. She along with Hayashi were now beginning to see how wrong they were about the boy and were now willing to offer him a little solace. Naruto then took the defensive stance of the toads, confusing many clan heads and causing Kushina to go wide-eyed. She knew that Jiraiya had lost the contract, but she didn't know Naruto had it. She frowned sadly as she knew that despite Naruto forgiving her, he still didn't trust her, and their current relationship was nothing more than a trust-building exercise. Not that she minded, she deserved his reservation towards her. He had suffered all his life because of her. But she was glad he gave her the chance, and she would make sure to utilize it completely to get her baby boy back. Back in the fight, Kiba charged and engaged Naruto in a taijutsu match. Kiba was on the complete offensive. He was using his agility and pace to try and push Naruto back. However, he soon saw that Naruto, despite moving back, was effectively blocking all of his moves he needed to try and break his defense, if he wanted to win. This moment of uncertainty was what Naruto needed. He immediately changed his style into his usual hummingbird and in burst of speed hit two weak punches before finishing of the move with a heavy double punch that caused Kiba to skid back and then cough out a little blood before collapsing. Naruto was still in the same position and muttered hummingbird secret art double decapitation. Just as Hayate was about to call the match, Kiba pushed hard, managed to stand up while panting heavily. He wiped the blood of his face and weakly looked at Naruto before saying, "I won't go down that easily." He then charged at Naruto and sent a punch to Naruto's face, which Naruto caught. Kiba after that made no sign of movement of any sort. Hayate looked at him and was shocked. The boy was unconscious. Shaking his head, he said, "Winner by knockout, Naruto and Uzumaki." Naruto then helped the medics deal with Kiba. Placing Akamaru on his chest, he patted Kiba's chest and said, "You did good, you have grown stronger since our last fight. Keep training and come face me again." Tsum looked on proudly. even though her son had lost he had earned something even more valuable. The will to never give up. She knew that she had to talk to Naruto soon. She had decided to offer her clan's support to the boy. However, one thought plagued her mind. Was it too late to seek forgiveness? Rest of the matches were like cannon. Imagine Lee winning after he used the gates against Aizen instead of losing versus Gaara, *. Now that the finalists have been decided, we will begin the matchups for round 1. Hayate announced. Naruto vs Narumi. Mito vs Hinata. Shikamaru vs Temari. Gaara vs Lee. Ren vs Karui. Samui vs Dosu. Shino vs Sayuri. All of you have a month to prepare for the exams. Good luck. Hayate announced as everyone started to leave the arena.